Hello and welcome back to another episode of Not Overthinking. Taimur, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. I've got some news to share with the pod,
Oh yeah?
which is that as of maybe 10 days ago, I'm now a dad.
Whoa! Mental.
Yeah,
Do you
pretty
mean
crazy.
like actually, not like some like clickbait, like I'm the dad of a new Pomeranian or something like that, which is what some people
No,
do.
I'm not a dog parent. Just a normal bog standard parent. Yeah, we had a baby girl last Thursday, and
Congratulations.
yeah, I've been on paternity leave since then, and just doing the whole dad thing, mate, in my dad era.
You're in your dad. Oh, dude. All right, mate. I was worried we wouldn't have anything to talk about on the pod, but you've just unlocked a large amount of content for a very long time. Because
That's, I mean,
also,
that's
babe,
why I did it.
nice. Yeah, because I guess babies evolve over time, so there's always something new to talk about with the baby.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Okay, so what's the story?
Well,
How did it
well,
happen?
when a man and a woman love each other. Um, well, I mean, yeah, I guess what do you want to know? What do you think would be
I want to
interesting
know
for the pod?
as many of the details around the birth that you're comfortable sharing,
Okay,
and then we'll
so
talk. So yeah, so what's the paint the picture of how's it feeling? What happened?
yes, obviously it's a few months in the making, about 9 months in the making. Um, People who have a bit of knowledge on these things. But yeah, I think one of the first thing I'll say is that pregnancy is absolutely mental, mate. I'm so glad I did not have to be pregnant. It is
What's mental about it?
absolutely. I think it's just like hugely taxing. I think like you're just kind of, well, I think most people go through a lot of like what it's called like morning sickness, but it's really just like all day sickness. So the first like 3 months, you're probably going through like you're probably just like feeling baseline quite unwell, and then for us it was a bit more chill for the next few months. But then it starts to get to the point where like you have this kind of big thing, and you're not as like mobile, and I mean yeah, it just kind of really takes a toll, um, and is like pretty disruptive to your day to day life. I think some women like being pregnant, I think. Well, so before Lucia got pregnant, I just assumed like, look, pregnancy is a, you know, if you want to have a kid, pregnancy is a necessary evil. Obviously, if you could skip that, you would, but like you can't skip it. But Lucia was quite keen on, well, quite liked the idea of being pregnant and like having the baby inside and just kind of this idea of sort of
What
looking
was this
after the support.
pre-pregnancy?
Pre-pregnancy, I think she quite liked the idea. I think in the first few months, she stopped liking the idea so much. But then I think overall she still liked it in the end. But
Yeah.
man, I'm so glad I did not have to do that. And then the childbirth stuff. I mean, it's the whole thing is just insane. It's just mental.
How so?
Yeah, it made. I mean, it's just such a big toll on your body and your life, right? Like if I was just like sick for 3 months, if I get a bad flu for like 2 days, I lose the will to live, man. I mean, like I'm so quick to just say like, look, man, I can't do this anymore. Just yeah. I think I'm not very physically resilient when it comes to this kind of stuff. Um, yeah, and then I mean, childbirth itself is pretty scary because previously I thought like, okay, I guess you either have a natural birth or you have like a C-section where they like cut you open and pull the baby out. Um, and Lucia would kind of listen to these. There's a whole kind of industrial complex of like pregnancy content basically, and there are podcasts. I think there's a podcast called like Birth Stories or something. So there's podcasts where every episode they're just kind of someone is talking through their birth story. And I previously I thought like how much content could there possibly be? I mean, there's basically like three different options for how you can give birth. What are these guys doing on
Wait, what
episode
are the
four?
three? Normal delivery and C-section. I swear that's two.
Yeah, I mean, there's like for normal delivery, there's a couple of options, right? you know, you can use some devices to help pull the baby out and stuff like this. But like, there's, it really did not seem like there's many options here. But yeah, it turns out there's actually like the sort of the tree of like possibilities when giving birth is just, there's actually like a ton of stuff. And then it's also just quite unpredictable. You know, you can't really plan for exactly how you want to do things, and then that's what's going to happen. Um, yeah. Yeah, the whole thing is just mental. Very glad I didn't have to do that, I have to say.
Mate, yeah, the whole thing is absolutely mental. I had my only experience of this is 8 months working on obstetrics and gynecology during COVID,
Yeah.
and just seeing just how mental pregnancy is.
Yeah.
Um, and like, I guess the sorts of women who come into hospital with it are sort of having the worst time with it. But
Yeah.
just, first trimester, the sheer amount of morning sickness, which is all day sickness that just sort of destroys you. And women have to go to work while this is all happening. Because like maternity leave only kicks in like I think most people only
Right.
take maternity leave like towards the end of it. And
Yeah.
did you, to what extent did you feel the experience gave you more empathy for the plight of mothers?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think I have a lot more respect for Mimi, our mom, and yeah, just like mums in general. It's crazy. Yeah.
Okay, so your view of the whole thing is like pregnancy is absolutely mental. Um,
Pregnancy and childbirth is insane. Yeah.
so then, what's your role as a husband in the process of 9 months worth of pregnancy?
In the process of 9 months worth of pregnancy, um, I think my role was basically to pick up more of, there's just kind of day-to-day stuff that needs to get done to like, you know, live a life. And so I think my role was basically picking up more of the other day-to-day stuff, like house stuff and other things. Um, because yeah, Lucia was kind of growing the baby and going through all this other stuff. So that was my role then. I think now my role, so like 10 days in, my role is basically taking care of everything apart from feeding. So like nappy changing, house stuff, whatever, like meals. Um, yeah, my role is basically everything but the feeding. And I'm so glad my role is everything but the feeding because the feeding seems way harder.
What's hard about the feeding?
I think it's a bit unpredictable. So the baby, well, for the last few days, she's kind of been needing to feed almost like every hour, every hour and a half. So, basically, to maybe put it into language that your audience might be more familiar with.
Wait, what do you
One,
mean, my audience?
well, once you have a newborn, it basically splits up the day into like 2 to 3 hour pomodoros, where every 2 to 3 hours the baby needs to feed, and feeding can take between 20 minutes and like an hour, depending on how fussy the baby is being, just like how quick the baby gets full and all of this kind of stuff. And so then you basically have kind of a 2 hour window. If you're lucky, you've got like a 2 hour window in which you can do other things, and the baby's kind of sleeping by default if it's not feeding. And sleep is included in this 2 hour window. And so I think we've kind of settled into a pretty good routine on this now. But like, yeah, basically alarm goes off every 3 hours during the night. Lucia feeds the baby. Well, I kind of do a nappy change, give the baby to Lucia. She feeds the baby. And then hopefully after like half an hour or something, baby's fine. And then we will go to sleep for another like 2 to 3 hours and then wake up and do it all again. So, um, yeah, I've been surprised at how quickly you adjust to that. I think I would have previously thought, oh, mate, this is absolutely grim. Well, actually, I think we had to stay in the hospital for a night, basically, after the baby was born, just so they could, like, monitor the baby and stuff. And I think that night, like, I was kind of sleep deprived, because basically the labor sort of started at, like, 2 a.m. or something, around midnight or 2 a.m. the previous morning. And so we didn't get any sleep that night. And then we had the baby maybe 12 hours later. And then we had to stay overnight in the hospital. and do all this feeding stuff and so on. And so that I think that night I was like knackered and I was thinking, oh my God, I hate being sleep deprived. Is this what my life is going to be? You know, like I can't. I was already ready to give
To
up.
throw in the towel.
I was like, I can't do this. Yeah. But yeah, I think you adjust pretty quickly, and now like I can get like 7 to 8 hours in like 2 hour chunks throughout the night and feel pretty okay.
There are people that use that as a productivity technique, like
Or
multi-phasic
polyphasic
sleep.
sleep.
Or, yeah.
Yeah.
So you're becoming more productive than ever, right?
Well, I think I don't want to squander this time because I'm on paternity leave for 4 weeks. Well, I'm already a week in, actually. It's gone by crazy quick. But yeah, I don't want to squander the time because there is like, I mean, just kind of sitting around at home, right? Like you're not doing too much. You're kind of just well, I think one interesting thing has been that maybe this is less true for me now, but definitely for the first week, I just didn't as long as we were staying on top of the baby stuff, like I felt like, oh yeah, we're like crushing it. I didn't feel, as long as like the baby was getting fed, the nappy was getting changed, we were managing to eat some meals. I didn't feel like, oh man, like I want to do all this other stuff or something. And it kind of made, it was quite a nice sort of simplifier where it was like, look, my goal for the day is very simple. It's to basically get through the day and like keep the baby alive and kind of keep us alive, and like I felt really good about that. I think now that we kind of are in a bit more of a routine, I know that, look, well, I feel like I don't want to squander this time because there is a bit more time well, I'm kind of stuck at home all day, so I should be doing at least like a home workout. So it's like some pull-ups and I've got some dumbbell or whatever. Like it would be a shame if like after this 4 weeks I've just like completely let myself go when actually I can squeeze in like a 20-30 minute workout every day sitting at home. So I've been thinking, okay, I need to get on my grind set now, I know how to do all the baby. Yeah, I know how to do all the baby stuff. It's now time to lock in, make sure I'm getting a workout in every day. There's usually in the afternoon, Lucia and the baby have like a nap for like 2 to 3 hours. And then that's just like solo time for me. So I can do some stuff in that time. I have a few projects going. And then maybe apart from that, I can also, oh yeah, there was this really nice morning last weekend where, are you familiar with the term skin to skin? You might be familiar with this, but probably other people are not. So basically, it's quite good if the baby's skin is in contact with like the parent's skin. And so, it's quite good for the baby just to kind of be like naked lying on you and while you're like topless or whatever. And we've got this sort of like wrap, like a sling kind of thing where you can like basically tie the baby to your chest. And so last weekend, I think when the baby was like 2 days old or 3 days old, we had a skin to skin session where I'd basically just like attach the baby to me. And then I was just like on the computer for like 3 hours and the baby was just like sleeping attached to me. And it was
Nice.
epic. It was so good.
Wait, what's good about it? Well, what's the feeling?
Well, it's really nice to like have the baby kind of attached to you and you like look down and she's looking all cute and stuff and you can like give her a little stroke from time to time. So it's really nice just like being close to the baby and having her on you. And then it's like great that you can just kind of keep doing your stuff. And like you're kind of, you're fulfilling the baby duty at the same time as like doing whatever else you want to do. And so yeah, it just feels great. Am I coming across poorly? Am I coming across badly?
No, I think it's super interesting. There's a friend of mine who does this where he ties the baby to his chest and then we'll just go for a walk. And we'll walk for like hours and hours, just getting so many steps in. The baby's sort of like somewhat heavy, so it feels like, rocking almost. And sometimes he'll just be wandering. Sometimes he'll be listening to an audiobook. Sometimes he'll be using something like VoicePal, which everyone should download to dictate notes and write while you're on the go. And the looks that other, in particular, women give him as he passes by, he's just like, oh man, everyone looks at me with such admiration. Because I'm like a dad with like clearly, the baby in a sling, like taking the baby out for a walk. It's like, I feel like such a hero.
Yeah. I think it's the sort of dad with baby in the sling out and about is kind of like the symbol of like anti-toxic masculinity or something. Like people just love it. It's like, wow, what a hero,
Okay.
So I'm looking forward to doing that. Yeah.
how did it feel the instant the baby came out? Some dudes describe like, whoa, in that moment suddenly my world changed. But I've also spoken to plenty of people that say like, yeah, I didn't really have that feeling until like a year or two in when they started to really interact properly and stuff.
Yeah, I don't think I had any like profound like, oh my God, like everything's changed kind of thing. I don't think I really had that. Um, I think when the baby came out, I was happy and relieved that it like came out and that there wasn't some like complications that meant that we'd have to do like an emergency C-section or something because that does happen. So it was kind of like relief of like, oh, okay, we made it. Baby's out. Seems to have gone well. Um, and then yeah, I mean, I guess the birth thing is just such a high stakes thing that probably for the next 48 hours I was just feeling quite like calm and peaceful and sort of happy about it that it all just sort of yeah went reasonably smoothly without any major complications. I think previously, I've historically not been a huge fan of newborns. Like, I really like kids once they're like age 1 plus, maybe like age 1 to 6 or something. I've like always really liked that sort of age and like playing with kids and hanging out with them. I never was never into the whole newborn thing. I think my feeling was like, yeah, I mean, newborns, they all kind of look the same, and like you can't really do anything with them. I guess you can hold them, but like I was a bit nervous about holding them. I don't want to like hold them wrong, like drop them, whatever. Yeah, I just wasn't that into newborns, and so I wasn't sure how I'd feel about the new. I was thinking, okay, cool, like the newborn thing. I'm sure it'll be fine. I'm sure it'll be kind of nice or whatever. But like, really, the real fun begins when the baby's like 1 year old or something like that. But I've been surprised at how much I've enjoyed the sort of newborn bit. Um, I think I just find her really cute. I think like yeah, I think I've always been a sucker for cute things, and I just find her super super cute. And so it's really nice even just like holding her and just like watching her and stuff. Um, and the nappy changes is when it's kind of like my quality time with her. So I'm like changing the nappy probably every couple of hours or something. And so I'm like carrying her to the nappy changing station that we've got. And then like chatting with her and stuff while I'm like changing the nappy. And then she kind of goes all calm. Yeah, she probably does a bit of like screaming during the nappy change. Well, she's getting better at that now. She's actually pretty calm throughout now. But then after the nappy change, once she's like got fresh nappy and back in her clothes, then she's just so sweet, man. She's just like I don't know, really like attentive. She like opens her eyes. You can like see her eyes and stuff, and she's kind of looking around. You like hold her, and she's got like yeah, really soft skin and really nice cheeks and all of this kind of stuff. So yeah, I think I'm enjoying just like having the newborn a lot more than I thought I would.
No, that's so heartwarming, genuinely.
Yeah, so that's what's going on. I'm trying to think, do I have any other reflections on this whole thing?
What else has been surprising?
What else has been surprising? I think one thing that's been kind of surprising is while Lucia was pregnant, I'd say when we were like out and about just doing normal stuff, you know, in the neighborhood or whatever, everyone's just like extra nice to you because you're pregnant. Like, yeah, people will just be like extra nice to you, Uber drivers or whatever, people in cafe, people like hold doors. It feels like you're sort of entering society. I think having a kid feels like we're kind of entering society in a way in which we weren't really part of society before. We're now like part of, part of society, and yeah, I think like everyone who has had a kid kind of like relates to you in this new way or something, and you kind of feel like you actually now have this thing in common with like tons and tons of people that you otherwise wouldn't have had much in common with, for example. And it feels like, yeah, it kind of feels, when you're out and about, like everyone loves like, oh, she's so cute, congratulations, just like random people you're walking past or, cab driver or whatever. Yeah, so it feels nice to be part of this big part of the human project, you know, in a way that I don't think we were before.
Some people describe that sort of when baby comes out, it sort of feels like their relationship with work has changed. Have you felt anything in that domain?
Relationship with work.
As in, some
Yeah.
people are like, yeah, it made me want to sort of lock in even more because now I know who I'm doing it for. Or alternatively, it made me realize that actually work is broadly meaningless. And, obviously I know there's limits to what you can say publicly, but
Yeah, I haven't really had that, to be honest. I feel like it's made me like want to lock in more, you know. I feel like I have to sort of step up now and yeah, I mean, I don't yeah, I don't think I felt like, oh man, I mean, this work thing is pointless, you know, it's really all about just the kid or something. Obviously the kid is the priority for sure.
yeah.
But now I'm thinking, okay, you know, I'm in this new phase of my life. I need to lock in. I need to figure out my grind set so that I can, you know, raise the kid well, pursue my, career stuff, stay in shape. You know, I'm like, yeah, let's lock in basically. I don't really feel like, oh man, everything else is meaningless and this is the only thing that matters or something like this.
And what's the difference between this let's lock in compared to what you've been doing for the last like 3 years?
I think I think now that there's this big new sort of time consuming sphere of life, which is like looking after the kid, I think it means that you kind of if you want to still pursue other things, you know, career or whatever, there's just like less wiggle room to waste time, basically. Whereas I think normally, you know, there's plenty of wiggle room to like, you know, do a decent job in your work, hang out with your friends and family, and then also like waste a bunch of time, you know, and then also like waste 5 hours a day, you
Yeah.
know. So I think now it's like, okay, cool. Every every hour of the day actually needs to be accounted for, you know, properly. You don't have the like 5 hours a day of wiggle room, you know,
Yeah.
like if you're like pissing around on Instagram Reels for half an hour, that's like that half an hour is coming out of something you care about, rather than like, yeah, I could piss around for half an hour, still get my work done, still see my friends, still see my family, whatever, you know. Yeah, so I
Nice.
feel like I want to, yeah, I'm trying to figure out my dad era,
Yeah.
and I think it's made me sort of want to lock in on just across the board, really. I think it's
Yeah.
also, I mean, I don't know if I've said this on the pod before, but I think particularly, I can only speak for like the male side of this, obviously, but I think marriage and like having a kid and stuff is quite a civilizing force on a guy, you know. It kind of like, you know, now there are certain things where like if I see something on Twitter or whatever, and like I think, oh, this would be funny or whatever, I'm like, wait, I'm like, you know, I'm almost 30. I've got a daughter now. I need to, you know, I need to stop this. I need to stop doing this stuff. You know, I now have that in my head of like, oh, I should probably like outgrow that, you know? Do you know what I mean?
No, not yet. But I still chuckle at the stuff on Twitter.
I'm trying to think of an example that's not too incriminating for like, the kind of thing where I feel like, man, I need to like should probably stop sharing those things now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure the listeners and viewers have gotten the gist based on I've got a daughter now, so I can't share. Yeah, I think that was incriminating enough by itself.
Nice, yeah. Hopefully that tells people what they need to know.
Okay, so I would like to be a dad someday.
Right.
Anything you would tell me that you wish you had known earlier in terms of like advice in inverted commas?
I'm not sure, mate. Uh, No, I don't think I have anything groundbreaking there. I think yeah, I mean, I think the sort of pregnancy and the nursing stuff is just like a massive toll on the wife, and so I think it's good if the guy can kind of take care of the rest of the stuff, and the rest of the stuff is it's actually not that bad. It actually doesn't take much time to just like keep the house tidy, fetch random stuff, do the nappy changes. Like this,
Yeah.
it doesn't take. It's still a great deal. I think. Um, yeah. Yeah, I don't
Um,
think I have anything particularly groundbreaking.
what? So, you've been sending a few pics on the family WhatsApp group of like,
Hmm.
good night from me and the baby. Well, the baby looks like she's sleeping next to you and it looks very cute. Like,
Yeah.
how does it feel in those moments when you're sort of lying down and the baby's sort of like sleeping next to you, like wriggling a bit?
Oh, I love it, man. I love it. Yeah, I just think she's so cute, Alhamdulillah. She's just like
But like,
adorable.
if you had like a little dog sit like sleeping next to you, would it be the same sort of like, oh, I love it because the dog is cute, or is the like,
Yeah.
what's the delta there?
I don't know. I mean, maybe it's not far off. I don't know. The thing is, right now, like you can't really interact with the baby too much. Like you kind of have a sense of how she'd respond to certain things. Like I know that there's like three different types of cry that she does, and
Hmm.
when she does cry A or cry B, it's like whatever. She needs like some food. But when she does cry C, like she's in pain or something, like something's happened. There's stuff like that. I think it's nicer than like having a cute dog. Um, Let me think about this. I think the fact that it's a human just makes a big difference, man. Yeah, I think the fact that it's a human makes a difference.
Hmm.
Um, and then there's just like a bunch of projecting you do, right? You're like, yeah, you just kind of think about like, oh, I wonder what she's gonna be like, and this
Hmm.
kind of stuff, and like, yeah, I mean, I'm really enjoying like just like fawning over her. I've always
Hmm.
been a bit of a fawner when it comes to like kids and cute things in general. So yeah, I really like the fawning stuff.
Have
Yeah.
you have you developed a sort of parenting intentionality philosophy kind of thing yet?
Yeah, on the parenting stuff. So obviously, this is a topic we've talked about on the podcast a few years ago. I think I am less inclined to like read parenting literature now than I was a few years ago. I mean, maybe I just like I read some of it, and like I feel like I have a good sense of things. But also, I feel like I kind of trust my intuition and sort of, I don't really like the term, but like common sense about it. Um, yeah. For whatever reason, I don't feel too inclined of like, oh man, I need to like read all these books about parenting or something. I mean, I still do a little bit, but I feel like I have enough intuition around it. Maybe from having read some books about it, maybe just
Hmm.
generally to not have to worry about it too much.
How much are you going to praise her when she grows up?
Yeah, the praise thing. Yeah, a lot of people have been calling me out on this. I mean, I'm praising her all the time right now, man. She does anything. If she like, if she like stops crying, I'll praise her. If she's just like looking around, I'll praise her. I'm like constantly praising her.
Are you
Yeah, I
praising her
mean,
for being or for doing? You praise her when she stops crying. That's something about that suggesting to her that crying is bad, according to Alfie Kohn, I think.
yeah, I think I don't really buy that stuff anymore. Um, yeah, honestly, I think we need to go. I think it'd be fun at some point to like revisit old podcast episodes because I think I don't really. I think I was misguided on a bunch of things.
Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, I think generally one thing that I've started to see in most spheres is that like we need to get out of this mode of like trying to come up with a few simple universal rules to just like apply to stuff, you know, like the whole praise is bad thing or whatever. I think me from like 2020 or 2021, whenever we used to have those discussions on the podcast, I think to some extent I was looking to kind of produce some universal rule that can just be applied. You know, I was looking to find some grand generalization that just like, you know, does the thing or whatever. And I just think it's like it's a bit pointless. I don't know. I don't know why anyone would think there would be such a, you know, some simple generalization or universal type thing. Everything is like contextual. Everything is case by case basis. Like, yeah, I think previously I thought like, oh man, like the world works in this way where there's just like these, you know, there's just these rules, you know, and like, you know, you just find this theory that like explains it all or whatever, or you find this rule that like, you know, just, you know, tells is the right way to do this thing. And I think a lot of my, when I was like reading about stuff, it was kind of through this lens of like, ah, yes, I found it. I found the golden rule for this
Yeah.
thing, you know,
And there is a
never
right answer
praise.
out there. Yeah.
Huh? Yeah, yeah.
Like,
And then once you want, you know, once you want to come up with this rule, then like you'll like fit everything to the rule, you know, like you'll find a reason, you'll find some interpretation under which, oh, actually, you know, praising for this thing is also bad. You know, really, you're coming up with it because you want it to fit your rule, but you know, because you want to have this nice rule or something. But yeah, I think I'm just like way less into that now. Yeah, I just think everything is contextual, everything is case by case, and I think when I'm like learning about stuff, it's not through a lens of like, oh yeah, just like tell me the rule, bro. Like, oh yeah, I've like cracked the code or something. Yeah. You know this.
yeah. I think my position is broadly similar, but I mean, I know this is not what you're objecting against, but obviously some generalizations are helpful.
I'm not anti-generalizations. I love to sit around and generalize. Yeah, it's great. It's great sport.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been thinking about this a lot recently in the context of kind of the business stuff,
Oh yeah.
where I think also for the last few years I believed there was a magical answer that I was not yet aware of,
Yeah.
and I think it does sort of depend on like within a given field, you spend like some amount of time getting broadly familiar with the set of stuff that people have figured out within the field.
Yeah. For
And
sure.
producing generalizations as a result of it. Like the fact
Yeah.
that you've probably read a few parenting books probably means, and also kind of given the way you were brought up and stuff, like, you know, you're probably unlikely to be like a 1950s style parent where you shout at the kid for crying.
Right. Yeah.
Or if you had a son, you'd probably be unlikely to use the phrase "man up," or "stop being such a crybaby," or you know things like that. I suspect.
Who says, mate? Who says?
I suspect you probably wouldn't do those, but those would now fall into the category of like intuition and common sense.
Yeah, for
Whereas
sure. Yeah.
a few years
You
ago, they were
internalize
not
a lot of
intuitive
stuff.
or
Yeah.
commonsensical,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so stuff becomes part of like the quote common sense
Yeah, for sure.
as a result of like the Instagram reels that you see and like the fact that you've read
Yeah,
some of
yeah.
these
You
books
do,
and all that.
you do just sort of internalize a lot of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you get to a certain point, kind of like with business stuff, where okay, I feel like I have a broad sense of like what the sphere of what the field of business advice looks like.
Yeah.
To know that, like, you know, a generalization, like, you know, in general, it's better to sell to people with money rather than people
Yeah.
without money. It's
Yeah,
like, okay, you know, it's a generalization, but it's also not a hard and fast rule, and like you can then kind of whatever. But if you don't know the generalization exists, you might spend 10 years trying to build a business selling to people who are broke. Before someone tells you this is a generalization, you're like, oh, that would have saved me 10 years worth of failed.
Yeah. I guess my point on the parenting is more that like, I feel like I have a broad sense of what the landscape looks like in terms of like approaches and literature and stuff like that. So that's already like useful.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, can I give you a book recommendation
oh yeah, what is it?
on parenting? I haven't read it yet. It's on my Kindle, but I've heard very good things about it. It's called Listen,
Listen.
and it's a the parenting philosophy is called hand in hand parenting.
Okay.
There's this guy who he's amazing. His name is Joe Hudson. He's like an executive coach, and I did a retreat in SF with him for like 7 days.
Oh, right.
He's
A
thought a lot
retreat.
about this parenting stuff, and there's this philosophy of hand in hand parenting. He says is the best one that he's come across, and used it to raise his two daughters. And everyone who meets these two daughters asks him, "Holy shit! Like,
Yeah.
how did you parent these guys? How did you parent these kids?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, just read this book." It's got like
Okay, nice.
6 core principles. Obviously, they're generalizations. I think you would enjoy it. I think it broadly
Okay.
vibes with your
Yeah, yeah.
intuition around
Do you
this
think
sort
I
of
should
stuff.
get the audio book or Kindle?
I'm not sure. I mean, I haven't read it. I think it's probably fine on audiobook because it allows you to multitask.
Yeah, while I'm holding the baby, yeah.
Yeah,
All
so
right,
I'd be curious to
I'm
get your
doing
take
it
on it because
now.
I haven't read it. I've just heard like a cursory summary of the ideas, and they broadly seem like, oh, okay, that's interesting.
Nice. Yeah, I've just got it on Audible. Yeah. Yeah, look, I'm not like anti-generalizations or anti-heuristics or anti like getting advice or reading about things. But I do think I approach stuff in a different way than before, where a few years ago I was enchanted by this sort of I found the rule and like you know, I won't allow anything to like break my go against my rule. And so I'll find a way to like make the thing conform to my rule because I like really care about having this rule or something.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Any other baby content we can talk about?
Baby
I feel like,
content.
at the point, sort of, if and when I become a dad, I'd be quite intrigued by the gear side of the equation, like
Oh
baby
yeah, oh
gear
mate, there's
and
a whole
stuff. Yeah,
freaking
what's up with
it's
that?
insane, dude. I mean, there's just like for every product, there's like there's a price point ranging from like £10 to like £5,000 for like every product category. Like you can buy a 50 quid pram or a 200 quid pram or a 5,000 quid pram. You can buy like a 20 quid cot or like 100 quid cot or like 2,000 quid cot. Like if you want to spend money, there are people out there who have created products in all the various categories in which you need a product. They've created products for every price point. It is, I mean, I thought what was our sort of general I mean, Lucia did most of the research around this. We got lots of recommendations from the other people and stuff. So, I mean, what's our general approach? Yeah, I think the other thing is that like when it's for your kid, it feels very easy to justify just like spending any amount of money. It's like, oh well, but it would like help the baby a little bit. So like, of course we should spend 200 more pounds on this thing or something like that. So yeah, the gear thing, it's kind of fun, but also I feel like they're trying to make me a chump. They're trying to like make a cock out of me or something with all this gear stuff. And so I don't want to like give in to that.
Yeah.
Because they want you to spend the money. They've made the like 500-pound baby carrier. In the Sutu, when our like maid would like just strap us onto her back with like some piece of fabric,
Yeah.
some like unwoven piece of fabric that probably cost like 5 cents or something.
Yeah.
They make baby carrier. You can buy a piece of fabric that is literally for wrapping the baby around you. You can buy this for like £200. It's insane. So I think like you need to like know when you're actually being, when someone is.
Being sold up the river.
Yeah, yeah. I haven't heard that phrase before. Sold up the river.
Yeah, that's a thing.
Yeah. So, well,
What
what are
is
the
that
areas
called?
where we've
Sold
splurged
up
a
the
little
river.
bit more? Wait, what?
I think this is a problematic reference. Hang on, let me see if I can
Oh no. Sold down the river, mate.
sell someone down the river.
Oh, dude. Why did you
What
have
is
to say that?
No, yeah, the phrase sold down the river has been used to signify profound betrayal.
Yeah, the phrase originated in the mid 1800s and refers to the
Oh
practice of
no.
selling slaves down the Mississippi River to work on cotton plantations.
Oh my
White
goodness.
planters valued men over women as laborers, so men were more likely to be sold down the river.
Wow, I had no idea that that was the etymology of the phrase.
Yeah,
I just heard it
well,
used in casual conversation of like being taken for a ride, but
yeah.
oh well.
So I don't think the expensive baby products are quite that
Yeah.
bad. But yeah, I think people will fleece you if you let them. Yeah, I don't think we've gone. I think we have one baby carrier type thing that was like pretty pricey. But for everything else, we've gone pretty like middle of the road. Um, yeah.
What about like, we've got to get only organic food that's been like, I don't know, grass fed or, all of like there's stuff that people have around like
Yeah.
only the highest quality food for my baby and, all of that sort of stuff.
I guess we're not really there yet because the baby was just like breastfeeding
Yeah. But
and
like during
then
the pregnancy and stuff, was that a thing that you guys were particularly concerned about?
not like organic type stuff, more just like, we want to be eating healthily so the baby
Hmm.
is getting good nutrients or something. Yeah, it's just a general like, oh no, we probably shouldn't get this like oily Chinese takeout 5 days a week or something.
Yeah.
It's more like that rather than,
We need organic avocados and stuff.
yeah. I think we were a bit more like aware of like, oh, we don't want like random chemicals and stuff. I don't know, nothing too crazy on that front.
So one thing
But
I'm
yeah, I
curious
think.
about.
Oh
So,
yeah.
sorry, go on.
No, I was gonna like zoom out a bit.
Great. Please, by all means, zoom out.
I was gonna say, yeah, I think that those are the main baby insights so far. Um, yeah, and it's really I love taking photos of her, man. It's just like such a we've made like a private Instagram for the baby, which is followed by like family and friends and stuff. And I like making these little gifs to share on WhatsApp and like family group chats and stuff.
Yeah, they're
So
great.
I've really enjoyed that. Um,
I was thinking of turning on notification because, like, now whenever I open Instagram, I see that account. I
oh,
think 'cause
nice,
I
yeah.
engage with it so much. I was thinking of just turning on notifications because it gives me a reason to go on Instagram.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice.
How are you making the gifs? Because they're very high quality gifs.
I think the iPhones are just really good, man. I think so. Cinematic mode on iPhone video is like really good. It kind of just like blurs the background a bit.
Oh, I thought you were
Um,
doing a video on your camera and then uploading it to some GIF creation service or whatever.
oh, dude, no, no, no. You just you just go cinematic on the iPhone. You shoot a
Yeah.
video, and then on WhatsApp, if you share a video that's like 6 seconds or less, there's an
Yeah.
option to make it to like share it as a GIF rather than as a video,
Oh, nice.
and then it
That's
like
handy.
auto plays in the like group chat, and there's no audio, but that's fine. Yeah. So yeah, that's the workflow basically.
It's quite good. It's like it's like there's an endless stream of sort of very short form content to consume
Yeah, yeah.
coming out of you guys.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I've always been very pro like WhatsApp GIFs. I think more people should just like share little GIFs on WhatsApp. Yeah.
So one thing I'm curious about is you said you didn't want to mention the name of the baby, and I wonder
Yeah.
why that is. Like, what's the thinking there?
What's the thinking?
For the record, I'm not campaigning that you should. I'm curious.
Yeah, yeah, no, I know, I know. Well, the thinking is, I mean, it's really more of a feeling of just wanting this to be like a relatively private part of my life, you know? So it's more of a feeling of like, I want like the baby stuff to be like pretty private. Um, mm, yeah, like, sharing the name and whatnot. I don't think there would actually be any like tangible negative effects or something like that. But I think it's more just about wanting to have this sphere of my life that is just private, basically. And that just like feels nicer than having it as quite a public thing, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's not. I don't have some like sophisticated justification for why like nobody
Yeah.
should share the name or something.
No, it
It's
makes
just a
sense.
feeling. Yeah.
There was a video I watched from Casey Neistat at one point where he was sort of quite open about, his kids and posting them in his vlog some of the time. And he said that there was one moment where he and his wife were, got into a cab in New York City, and the cab sort of stank of smoke and stuff. And the cab driver was like, "Oh my God, Casey and Candice, it's so great to meet you. How's Francine doing?" And they just sort of got so they got the heebie-jeebies from that. And he was explaining in this video that there's nothing, rationally speaking and logically speaking, there's nothing. I mean, obviously it's kind of obvious what the kid's name is because he talks about her on the internet, and it's just he's followed by people in New York, and it makes sense. But in that context of this kind of gross smelling cab, the cab driver being like, "How's Francine doing?" sort of gives you this feeling of whoa, hang on, hold the hell up.
Keep my daughter's name out your
goddamn mouth. Which is interesting.
Yeah, I think I can understand why that would feel intrusive and weird. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
What do you think your approach is going to be?
Yeah, we've talked about this to figure out because Izzy and I were quite private about our relationship until we got married.
Yeah. Exactly.
Which was a very deliberate decision. And now it's sort of okay, we'll post each other on our stories sometimes, and I've got a bunch of couple pics, which helps pad out the Instagram feed to make it just feel less we're trying to do a personal photo carousel with random self-help advice, Instagram reel, and do that on repeat so that the grid looks kind of nice, and pics from the wedding, pics from the honeymoon, all that kind of stuff. All seems fairly harmless. I do have to run every single photo by Izzy because she feels that she looks bad in, I don't know, whatever percentage of.
Oh yeah, I need to sign off from Lucia before even sharing photos on private family groups on WhatsApp.
Of her or of the baby?
Of her.
Oh, fine. Yeah, yeah, makes sense. But when it comes to how much we want to quote turn the relationship into content, we're quite wary of that. When it comes to how public to be about kids and stuff in the future, there's part of me that, pretty much all of the Instagram content I get shown these days is parenting and dad related content, and it's either cute babies or cute dogs, and there's no desk setups on my Instagram reels anymore. Whereas that used to be a feature back in the day. There are definitely no female Instagram fitness models on my Instagram feed anymore, which used to be the case maybe 5 years ago. But then I went through a phase of deliberately purging, unfollowing all the pretty women on my Instagram account.
Do you think marriage has been a civilizing force for you in that way as well?
I think it has, actually. Yeah, I mean,
I'm a married man now. I'm a 30-year-old married man. I probably shouldn't be following that on Instagram.
I mean, I haven't been following these sorts of accounts for about 3 years now. Obviously, that's what we tell the public. But on the kids front, you can make some great content out of kids, and they're just so cute. And I watch the content, and I think I feel really good, and it feels very wholesome when a kid is doing something cute, or running around, or a dad is sharing tips for how they work with the kid and stuff, and the kid, you can see the kid. And so there's part of me that's that seems broadly harmless. Obviously it can be taken too far where the kid becomes a monetization vehicle, which sort of feels like crossing a line. But I don't know. There's even this sense of there's that whole thing of, well, does the kid consent and all that stuff? There's the thing around is opening a door into that area of life even what I want to be doing? But then there's the other side of things of well, if showing kid content there's quite a hefty sentiment around these days that having kids is bad, and the environment is terrible, and why would you bring kids in this terrible world? And I broadly buy the the underpopulation thesis of actually we should probably be having more kids rather than fewer. Aging population is a pretty terrible thing in most civilized societies, or in most societies rather. So there's part of me that's hey, if I can quote influence people to have more kids, that seems good. And I definitely want to do productivity for parents kind of content at the point if and when it happens. But I don't know, it's a tricky one.
Yeah, I'm glad there are people out there doing the like parenting content, the kid content. Like, there's some like cute sort of like parenting and kids accounts that I follow on
Yeah.
Instagram. There's one baby called Rustin. I don't know if you've seen Rustin. I don't know what the account's name is, but I know the
Yeah.
baby's name is Rustin. He's really cute. And then, yeah, there's a few other like cute kid ones. I wouldn't do that personally, but I'm glad there's people out there doing it.
Mm.
Yeah, I was surprised at just how many like, yeah, just the whole content ecosystem for like parents and for babies and all of this kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
it's
There's so
huge.
many
Like
people out there doing
family
it. Yeah, it's
vloggers
crazy.
and everything like that.
Yeah.
There was one. I attended this sort of YouTubers conference in 2019, where this lady was giving a talk, and she was like a former McKinsey managing partner or something, who quit her job at McKinsey because she ended up being the manager of her two kids, who were like twins, aged like 6, and those kids had
Okay.
absolutely blown up on like toy unboxing videos.
Oh, right. Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
she was very open about this, and like, the kids were Irish, but she put them into elocution classes so that they could have a more American accent because it was more brand friendly. Because if brands thought that the kids were American, it would bring more money for the family, and how every day sort of the kids were on a schedule of like content filming, whether they liked it or not, kind of thing. And she was very unapologetic about the whole thing, but like, I found myself thinking, there's a point at which this starts to feel, I don't know, exploitative. But then I don't know, like, I can see the case for it. I can see, yeah. Seems like a whole new can of worms when you involve a kid who can't really consent to doing the thing in like online publicity content in some way, even if the overall message is like positive and wholesome and nice and stuff. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I wonder about this because I've heard people talk about this like consent angle when it comes to like raising kids or something. I think I'm not that fussed about it. Like, kids obviously can't consent to like the vast majority of stuff that, you know, needs to get done for them to like grow up or whatever.
Yeah, but then
Like
I guess the
school and
counter
all
to,
this kind of
counter to that would
stuff.
be
Like,
like, kids can't consent to things, and so if you can make an argument that it's in the kid's best interest to, as I don't know, make them do a thing that they can't really consent to, it's like, okay, fine, it's in the kid's best interest. But it's difficult to argue it's in the kid's best interest to be a public figure on Instagram. And so like,
right.
in terms of sort of balance of harms to the kid, it will almost certainly be a net negative for a kid to have a public profile on the internet under the age of like 13 or something, probably even
Do you think so?
under the age of 16.
Do you think
Because
so?
like there's harms in the sense of, I know you feel like there's a moral panic around kid abduction and stuff like that, but like, even if there's
Yeah.
a small chance of someone, I don't know, taking a fancy to a kid that happens to be on an Instagram account, thinking the kid is super cute, trying to find the kid because they realize the kid lives in the same city. Like, you can imagine,
Yeah, yeah.
you
You
can
don't
imagine
want.
some harms, and it's hard to
Yeah.
imagine benefits to the kid,
Yeah.
other than the parents getting more likes on Instagram because it's like, they've got a cute kid in the picture, and it's like,
Yeah.
this is where I like really struggle to figure out like, how
Yeah.
would I approach this? If I want
Well,
to
the
do
thing
that.
is, Simon Saris posts pictures of his kids on Twitter, man.
Mm.
But I guess what Simon Saris is doing is like I've just gone on his Twitter profile.
Like
He's
encouraging
got
people
his
to live
kid.
off the land and like build a house and homeschool the kids, and
Yeah, he's doing all this like homesteading stuff
yeah,
and shares pictures of that stuff, and then often it involves like the kids.
Hmm.
Like, there's a picture of a kid out on a walk in the woods. I don't think he's shared like names of the kids. I don't think anyone knows where he lives. We know what his house looks like. Like, if you're that like autistic geoguesser guy, you could probably figure out where Simon Saris lives, from like this picture of his house based on like the two different types of trees in the background or whatever it is. But yeah, I'd say Simon Saris's approach seems all right. Like, I can imagine not being super averse to that. I mean, I don't think I would do it, but it doesn't seem terrible. I don't know.
yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know.
don't know, man.
I can imagine wanting to do it if I could psy-up myself into believing that there was a greater good behind it. Like if I felt really strongly that like more people should have more kids or something, or I felt really strongly that more people should homeschool their kids in a world where I homeschool my kids, or I felt really strongly that like kids shouldn't be on social media, then kind of using my kids as sort of poster boys for that particular agenda. I can imagine feeling like, okay, on the balance of harms, I'm obviously going to do sensible things for security precautions, but broadly, I think the quote harm is worth it for the sake of pushing this greater good agenda. I can imagine myself being in that position where I'm like, okay, there is a mission here, and the kids are going to be behind that mission.
Yeah.
I don't know. Really.
Yep.
But yeah, no, I get the desire to keep this aspect of your life private.
Have you changed your views on privacy stuff? I mean, previously, you're sort of known for being pretty open about talking about money and this kind of stuff. Like, have you changed your view on that? Well, I think you don't want to be public about your business revenue and this kind of stuff anymore in the way that you used to, right?
Probably not in the way I used to, in the sense of like doing an annual income report video. I'm still very open about it in the sort of podcasts and things. I think that like being open about money is like fine. I think the issue is when it starts to affect other people. Like now being married and start like if people think I'm richer than I actually am, or I somehow have access to all of the money that's, I don't know, in assets that are owned by the business because they don't understand how like life works, and it therefore then paints a target on the back of me and my family, then that would obviously be a terrible thing.
Yeah.
So it's that sort of balance of harms that I think about on the money side. And then on the privacy side, it's like I'm very open about things. I probably will continue to be very open about things for myself, but when it affects like Izzy or someone close to me, and they are less comfortable with that level of openness, then obviously it changes the equation.
Yeah. I'm going to get your thoughts on a interesting. Let's talk about the Manosphere for a sec.
Oh, here we go. You've got a daughter now. How does that change your approach to the landscape?
This is completely unrelated to all the previous stuff we've been talking about. I met a guy a few weeks ago at some like tech event who got really into sort of Manosphere stuff when he was like, I don't know, 14, 15 type of thing. Self-help. Yeah, just all the kind of male self-help stuff. As we all do. Yeah. And he says it like changed his life basically. Like he basically felt like he was.
Wait, how old is the guy roughly?
He's in like early 20s now.
Oh, early 20s. Okay, fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's so many like entrepreneur type people I've met who are like my age, like 30 to 35, who also discovered that stuff when they were 14, 15, around the time of The Game and like Mark Manson's book. And I had a chat with Mark Manson saying like, dude, you have no idea how many like billionaires have come up to me saying, bro, I read your book when I was in college and it changed my life.
Sick. Man,
now they're all like tech founders and stuff. Yeah. But anyway, go on. So your guy.
Yeah. So he was like, man, this stuff like really changed my life kind of thing. And like everything that I am, I owe to the community, something like this.
Yeah.
And I think I sent you this video on WhatsApp. I think Chris Williamson had Jordan Peterson on the podcast, on his podcast. And there was like a 10-minute segment where Chris Williamson was basically talking about how Jordan Peterson basically like changed his life or whatever, with his like message when, I don't know, a few years ago when Chris needed a hero or something like this. And yeah, I wanted to get your thoughts on that, because it is now like, the Manosphere stuff. I think my understanding of the sort of the intellectual history of the Manosphere is that it's, it started off with the whole like pickup artist community, and then it became like less about like picking up girls or whatever, and more about like just becoming a better man, but still strong focus on like being charismatic, social skills, stuff that would make you more attractive to women. And now it's kind of gone even broader, where it's just about like, I don't know. It just seems like general guidance for men
Mm.
that people are saying the men are not getting anywhere else, or something like this.
Yeah.
And Jordan Peterson is one of the guys, and all these guys, whatever, right? What when I was surprised about the Chris Williamson Jordan Peterson changed my life thing. I guess I'm not that close to like Jordan Peterson's content. I mean, I think I benefited from Manosphere stuff somewhat. I mean, yeah, like when we were teenagers or whatever, like I think I benefited from this stuff. I've never been like super like I've never been like a card carrying member of the community or something, but I keep tabs on it. Benefited from Mark Manson and all these guys back in the day, and I think a few years ago it was like cool. I don't really need that stuff anymore. Glad I like was exposed to it and got some value from it, but like you kind of go out, you outgrow that phase or something. Can you still hear me, by the way? You're frozen.
Yeah, my camera is just frozen, but I can still hear you.
What do you have a sense of like what people are getting out of that stuff now? Like, yeah.
Yeah, one sec. Let me just see if I can switch my camera back on. That's weird. The cam link is being a bit dodgy. Oh well, we're closing up anyway, and I can't switch camera, but it's probably fine. Do I have a sense of what people are getting out of this? Yeah,
like, what's the current state of the Manosphere, and like what?
Yeah, I don't really know.
What's the phenomenon about? Yeah.
Okay, we're back. Hopefully it'll stitch the recordings together. Can you still see me?
Yeah, I'm good now.
Nice. Yeah, I have a sense of, so I think back in the day, you could trace the Manosphere, back before it was called the Manosphere, to like a handful of people. You could be like, okay, well, it was Neil Strauss, it was like Mystery, it was like Mark Manson, then like Rollo Tomassi came on the scene, and you could sort of like name the big dogs in the Manosphere.
Yeah.
Now, because I think of the proliferation of like short form content and the fact that anyone can, algorithms and stuff,
Yeah.
it's now a lot more scattered. There are still like heavy hitters like Jordan Peterson, and some would consider Andrew Tate part of the Manosphere. There's this guy called Hamza who's a YouTuber.
Yeah.
Male
Yeah, he seems like the big one. Yeah, this guy I met was like, he mentioned him, and yeah, it seems like there's a whole
part of the Manosphere, even though like some people say he's like so woke that he's a cuck, but some people say that he's like
wait, who, this Hamza guy?
No, Chris Williamson.
Oh, Chris Williamson. Okay, yeah.
So some people think Chris Williamson is like a beta sort of woke cuck, and some people think that he's like a card-carrying member of the Manosphere who's like promoting toxic masculinity. But then you also, I think broadly, it's sort of like the centrist Manosphere person is still like, hey, male personal improvement, taking responsibility, cleaning your room, making your bed first thing in the morning. David Goggins stuff like, hey, if you're a fat slob, go and lose some weight because like, it's good for you. But then on the extremes, you start to get into sort of dodgy territory.
Yeah.
Which, there's this whole strand of it that's about like how feminism is ruining the world.
Modern women are broken.
About like women being bad and stuff. Then there's a whole strand about like, there's stuff around becoming a sovereign individual. Sort of like Jacob Rees-Mogg's dad's thesis. I think the sovereign individual from like 1990 is now being sort of rehashed as content that's being used to sell online courses on how to make 10K a month, because in order to become a sovereign man, you need money, because when the government comes for you, or when the woke people come for you, it'll only be the people who have an independent income where they can make money from the internet. by
Yeah.
having a social media marketing agency, or
Yep.
by doing a Facebook YouTube channel. By the way, sign up to my course. Or having YouTube channels, to sign up to the part-time YouTuber Academy, all that kind of stuff. If you
Yeah.
if you have financial freedom, then you're able to get passport freedom. And Andrew Tate
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
starts
Yeah.
to skirt in that edges, saying that like, hey, if you don't have multiple passports, you're a massive cuck. Then you start to go adjacent into like the sort of biology content, the
Yeah.
sort of,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
everyone should be on Bitcoin. You should,
Yeah.
any
Yeah.
links you have to Google are
The
bad
network
because
state.
like they
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
trace
Yeah.
you. And it starts to be less about, okay, wait, when did the Manosphere end, and when did all this like escaping the Matrix begin? But there's
Yeah.
there's quite
Yeah.
a lot of overlap. It's still very interesting, but I still think that I still think there is value to be found in the same way. I think this was kind of the case back in the day as well. It's sort of like being in a boys' locker room, where like a lot of the stuff you hear is going to be total garbage, but some of the stuff you hear is actually going to be pretty solid. You can get some pretty good lifting tips. You can get some tips on how to eat well. You can get some tips on how to be a bit more confident. You can get some tips on how
Yeah.
to dress so that like women don't find you repulsive or something. You can,
Brutal.
like get a decent haircut, like put on some deodorant, bro. Come on, man. Like, a neck
Yeah.
beard's
Yeah.
not that cool.
Yeah.
Sorry, no offense, Taimur. You get all of that content, and I think as long as you take it with a large pinch of salt, broadly, I think it is quite positive. But obviously, the critics of it would look at the extreme stuff rather than the centrist stuff. So, I don't know.
Yeah. So I guess on the centrist stuff, I think a lot of people's entry point into this stuff is like, hey, I want to be more attractive to girls.
Sure.
That's the entry point of like
Or I want to
the
make more
whole
money.
male self-help,
Yeah.
thing. But then there seems to be this like, I think that, I think I got into it for that reason as a teenager briefly. But then I think I got out of it before the kind of Jordan Peterson era of like, you should take responsibility for your life kind of message. Like, can you explain that side of the message a bit more to me? Because it seems like that is really resonating with people, and a lot of people are like really,
Yeah.
like turning their lives around because of like hearing like a guy on the internet say like, dude, like sort your shit out.
Yeah, pretty much. Again, I'm not massively familiar with the Jordan Peterson content. My understanding of it is that in broad brushstrokes, it's basically that, take personal responsibility. No one is coming to save you. As a man in society, your worth is actually your ability to provide. It's not just like, and I think Peterson's view is that, I could be getting this wrong, but I think Peterson's view is that is how it is, and that is how it should be. Like, a man's role is their ability to provide. So if you're a basement-dwelling World of Warcraft player who's not making any money and still living with their mum, like, you actually are a sort of, and like society will treat you as such, and there is something you can do about it. And I think seeing a old white dude, because a lot of this is speaking to young white men. I think people like Hamza speak to a lot of like young Indian, Pakistani type men. I think it's basically like people are looking for father figures who seem sort of like them. There's a lot of people in the black community. There's Kevin Samuels. There's like Fresh and Fit. There's like a bunch of other people where I've heard that like these sorts of figures in the black community are also like this figure of like personal responsibility, like, get out of debt. That's a big thing sort of in in America, for example. It's all that sort of stuff. And as long as it doesn't veer too much into the, some advice is questionable. So I think some of the Fresh and Fit guys are like talk about how, as a man, you should never even think about having a long-term relationship before you're 35 because your sexual market value is only going up, and you should use that time to sort of have as many casual relationships as you possibly can. And then you have people like Ben Shapiro going against that advice, being like, what the hell are you talking about? And it's sort of like, people would consider that to be right-wing, but also Ben Shapiro to be right-wing. But then like right-wing is arguing against, it's like right-on-right crime now. They're sort of arguing against each other on that end of the political spectrum. It's all just quite interesting. But I think broadly it is this narrative of you can take personal responsibility. I think
Yeah.
Chris Williamson's backstory is interesting. When he was on my pod like 4 years ago, we kind of talked about this, where he was on Love Island and was a professional party boy and had like sent 5 million messages on WhatsApp trying to get people to attend club nights in Nottingham back in the day, and was always jacked and was doing like male modeling and stuff. And then he went on Love Island in like the first season and saw how depressing the whole thing was, and went through a phase of like, holy shit, is this what my life has amounted to? And kind of discovered Jordan Peterson in the aftermath of that, when he was looking for his entry into personal development.
Okay.
I think for me and for a lot of people, the entry into personal development was like Neil Strauss and Mark Manson. For Chris, it was Jordan Peterson. And I think, for some people it's Hamza, for some people it's Iman Gadzhi, which starts off as like how to make money on the internet and then becomes personal development. For some people it's even my stuff. It starts off as
but so for example, for someone like Chris, is it like... Yeah, I guess I have less of an understanding of... I think I have an understanding when the on-ramp is like, I want to get girls, or the on-ramp is like, I want to make money, or like, I want to do well in exams. I can understand these on-ramps into this kind of content and then getting into the rabbit hole or whatever. I don't understand the Chris Williamson on-ramp, where like, it seems like he was already moderately successful. He was on like Love Island and stuff. He was a good-looking guy. Like, his on-ramp wasn't that he wanted to like do better in exams or get girls. It was like something else.
His on-ramp was that he wanted to find meaning.
Okay.
Yeah, he was he felt lost. He felt like all of this stuff that he was doing wasn't really going anywhere and wasn't making him happy. And realized that the lots of casual relationships, lots of popularity, being a club promoter lifestyle was bringing him misery rather than happiness, is my understanding of the story. And therefore discovered the Jordan Peterson stuff and things on a pursuit to find meaning. And I think a lot of men in particular, I mean, I don't know if this is true of women as well, I suspect it probably is, find meaning in personal growth. Find meaning in like, I can be a better I can be a better version of myself. That's quite a meaning inducing sort of feeling.
Okay, interesting. Yeah.
And I think Jordan Peterson's stuff is quite targeted at that, and he'll cite like, I don't know, Jung and Freud and stuff on like meaning in life. and all of that stuff. So,
that was good. Good impression.
Yeah. I think similarly, it's always interesting getting a sort of understanding who people's self-help gurus are. Like for some people, some people, mostly in like a lot of people in the US, it actually is Tony Robbins, because they attended a Tony Robbins seminar. Like at the Tony Robbins event that I was at like last year, there was someone there who attended a Tony Robbins seminar 40 years ago and was at that seminar. And she was like, holy shit, where's my life gone? I saw you at a seminar 40 years ago and here I am now. And he was, her intro, there's one of my team members, Natalie, her intro into self-help was a lady called Danny Daniels, who does like self-help seminars in the US. And she was paying thousands of dollars to fly to every single one of Danny Daniels' seminars, and said that Danny Daniels completely changed her life. For some people, it's a guy called Brennan Burchard, who's also in the US. Like it's sort of every sliver of society has their own like self-help guru, who's a person who is sort of like them, who's like doing the thing and, you know, peddling the message of personal development, happiness, growth, take care of your health, take care of your relationships. You can actually take control of your life. And I think a lot of people have that like agentic, like non-agentic kind of approach where it's like, the life that I've got is the life that I've got because it was handed to me like that, because of the government, because family upbringing, because whatever. And the shift seems to be in recognizing, oh, actually, I mean, the place I am right now might not be my fault, but it is my responsibility to get out of it. And it's only my responsibility to get out of it. The government is not coming to save me, kind of thing. No one's coming to save me. As a man, that message resonates quite nicely. No one's really coming to save you. You've got to pull yourself up by your own bootstraps and stuff. And everyone from like the most vanilla Ali Abdaal all the way through to every single person on this sort of spectrum of content is all peddling that same narrative of like personal responsibility and stuff. It's just different things strands by between people.
Interesting. So do you think you're in the Manosphere then?
As a guru, or as a member?
No, as a guru.
Oh no, I wouldn't put myself anywhere near the Manosphere, unfortunately. I do want to start, now that I'm married, start doing like a book club episode about models by Mark Manson, doing like an analysis of the game by Neil Strauss to be like, let's look at the rational male and see like what can we actually learn from these. And something Izzy and I have talked about is doing like a couples channel where she and I are both reacting together to like
oh yeah, that would get so many views. That would get
men's
so many
personal
views,
improvement content.
Yeah. Oh, mate, that
All
would
right,
be
Izzy, I'm
fascinating.
going to read
That
you
would be
a
really good.
chapter from the Rational Male. Let me see.
Yeah.
Like, how do you feel about this?
Yeah. Oh, dude, that would be epic content.
I think it'd be quite fun.
I don't know if it would be good for your relationship, but it would be good for the content.
Absolutely.
Nice one, mate.
All right, should we wrap things up?
Let's do it. Anything you'd like to share before we wrap up?
No, man. It's been fun chatting. Good luck with the next few days with the child. I'll be taking a trip to London at some point in the very near future, so I'll be able to see you guys in person. And yeah, looking forward to it.
Awesome. Thanks everyone for listening, and see you next time.
Bye.